Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to what is the last Mobile Ecosystem Forum live webinar of 2022. This year we've covered so many different topic areas, and being the last webinar of the year, I thought it just right and fitting that we cover a rather vast topic. Now, the whole area of how any organization, we're not just talking here about enterprises, it could be charities, it could be governments talking to their citizens, how any organization should actually go about doing that, building their reputation, their brand, driving consumer loyalty. It's a topic that MEF members, the wider mobile community are talking about all the time. There are just so many channels out there, and today we want to bring a bit of clarity to the issue. We're going to be talking about so many of the different ways any organization of any size can interact with any of their stakeholders, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by 6 panelists from all around the world, starting off with Kim Buller from Alchemy Telco. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself, please, and your company?
Thanks, James. My company is called Alchemy Telco. We founded the company here in the Gambia, which is West Africa. It's been probably 2015 through to now. I'm really interested to hear what all these experts have got to say, because I've got so much to learn from them. Here, it is really difficult to follow a digital marketing campaign. We take the approach very much of I go out there as the face and meet the people, talk to the people, find out what their main problem is, and get them signed up to one product and keep the personal relationship very much alive, and then upsell. At the moment, we are just expanding into Senegal and Sierra Leone. Again, I take the same approach. I use LinkedIn to make my connections, and then I make personal appointments and travel and make a human connection to start the ball rolling.
And that's very much what we've seen this year. There's been very much an increase in demand from MEF members for in-person events, and that's going to definitely continue into 2023. So that personal connection cannot be underestimated. Next up, I'd like to introduce you to Narayan Govindram Jaisingh. Narayan is joining us from Mumbai. Hi, Narayan.
Hi, James. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and lovely meeting everyone, meeting everyone, right? About VServe, we are into mobile advertisements, mobile digital targeting, right? Personalization, if I may use the word. How do we help brands reach out to consumers with relevant products? Personalize the category for them, right? And that's where it drives a hell lot of a difference when, as a consumer, you see relevant products being approached to you rather than just being bombarded with some random products and you're wondering that, hey, what do I got to do with this? So that's the core business that we are into.
I think but bombarded is the right word. So you're in a country with 1.4 billion people, the total population of Africa in one country. And I know there have been so many different issues with different communication channels, some that have been paused totally, such as Rich Communication Services since May, RCS. And I know WhatsApp is under serious pressure at the moment with a lot of spam, but we'll be coming back to that, I'm sure, later. Next up, thank you. Great having you, Narayan. Next up, I'd like to introduce Munir Badr from AE Server in Dubai. Hi, Munir.
Hi, James. Thank you so much for having me here today, and nice meeting everyone on the fellow panel. So I'm based in Dubai. I've been here for the past 27 plus years. It's one of the most beautiful cities on earth, and I'm very proud to be living here and doing business. So my company, AE Server, we are the largest privately owned .ae domain name registrar and web host by market share. So we are basically a web presence specialist. We offer, services to SMEs and to larger corporations, helping them establishing their online presence, starting with a domain name, then going to business email, web hosting, website builders, and services which basically empower and secure your presence online. I'm also very involved with the community, with the domain name and the web presence community. I'm a speaker at ICANN events, which is the governing body for domain names, and also we have local chapters of such meetings happening in all over the Middle East. That's where I represent and carry the flag of the domain names that we manage. So at this point, we are basically the largest registrar for AE, as I mentioned, QA for Qatar, and also Bahrain just recently. And on another side, I also serve as an advisor to a new domain name zone, which is called it.com. And hopefully I will share some more information about it in the session.
Fantastic. So no, domains are a critical element for any organization. You need to get your domain name right, and actually having availability of a domain name will impact how you brand yourself. So we'll come back to that. Thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to introduce Stuart Mitchell from Cinch. Go for it, Stuart. Hi.
Hi, so I'm Stuart. I'm a product manager at Cinch. Cinch is one of the world's largest communication service providers, particularly focused on the mobile space, voice and email. I'm a product manager and I work within the rich messaging space. So what I'm mainly going to be talking about today is the new rich channels that are available to any enterprise to enable them to reach out and speak to their customers.
That's the key. How accessible are they, Stuart? Will be coming to that. And we've also got Guillaume Bossy from Enabled joining us from California. Hi.
Hi, James. Thanks again to you and MEF for this opportunity. I'm a former TeleSign, being in the telco for the last 17 plus years, 18 years. And in 2021, we co-founded with telco alumni a platform named Enabled. That platform actually helps telcos to orchestrate, unify, and monetize their assets. What we have seen over time is that you can get access to many different companies to route your messaging and so on. But how do you standardize your experience internally? How do you ensure that you have all the tools from billing, routing, measuring the quality, fraud management, and so on, under just one platform? And that's what we are doing at Enable. What I like to say these days, we SaaS the telco world.
Oh, all these acronyms. We want to cut through this. We don't want to say that software as a service, Guillaume. Let's start as we mean to go on, please.
Why can't SaaS be a verb? SaaS could be a verb.
Yeah,
SaaS, CPaaS, UCaaS, CPaaS. We're going to go on and on with it, Stuart, aren't we? There. Okay, thank you, Guillaume. A warm welcome. So I know Enabled and many of you here are actively selling into telcos and mobile operators for solutions. And we're going to be talking about how strong their brands are and how these partnerships are important. And last but by no means least, Mr. James Patmore from ShareID. James, great having you with us. Hi.
No, thanks very much, and great to meet you all. To introduce myself, I run global partnerships for ShareID. I do come from a telco background. I used to work for Telefonica, and also I was the managing director of Boku, which is a global mobile payments platform. So I've got some good experience with the telco industry. I'm now working for a company called ShareID, which is a marketing technology company. So we help lots of brands, big and small, all around the world to acquire and retain customers. So I'm going to give a short presentation about that in a minute.
You are. But before that, I know that perhaps you are brand new to MEF. You've never heard of MEF before. You've never come to any of our events. And if that's the case, a very, very warm welcome to you in particular. MEF is the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. We've been around for just over 20 years now. We are a global neutral platform for our members. We've got 175 members from around the world. Some of the people you've seen today here are members, some are not members, and that's exactly how we roll at MEF. We don't want MEF just to be an echo chamber of members. We want to be really all-encompassing with the ecosystem. So thanks to all my speakers for being here. And James, would you like to take it away with your presentation?
Thanks, James. Just going to share my screen. Yeah, so I'm just going to have a quick discussion about what we call identity marketing. So essentially, the landscape's changing for a lot of brands globally, mainly because of a lot of new data protection regulation. I guess you guys are all very well aware of GDPR regulation in Europe, for example. And I guess the response to that has been that a lot of the major platforms are deprecating third-party cookies from their platforms, so Google and also Apple in how they respond to that. And also, consumers are becoming much more aware of what's happening to them in terms of their usage of the internet. And in our research, only 25% of consumers do opt in to being tracked. Some see the benefit, but most people don't want that to happen. So essentially, what you're seeing is that from a marketing perspective, a lot of things are changing. So previously, marketeers could rely on third-party lists to market to. They could scrape consumers' internet information off the internet using first-party data. But typically, that's become more and more challenging, not only because of regulation, but because the consumers are getting more aware of it and the conversion rate is becoming much lower. So now we're moving to a situation where consumers are being more empowered. They're looking to own the sovereignty of their data and their identity, and they're looking to provide that and are expecting a clear value exchange in response for providing that data. And Forrester have analyzed our service and picks up on this, and they've basically determined that the most valuable data of all is what they would call zero-party data. And what that is essentially is where a consumer proactively goes to a brand, self-attests their data, opts in to provide that data to the brand. And those consumers are much more highly converting than other consumers that brands have. And what brands can do is take that zero-party data and then combine that with first-party data and build a full customer profile within their customer data platform, which can then drive a much longer lifetime value and a much longer relationship with that consumer, and hopefully a much better consumer experience. So, so in terms of how ShareID kind of capitalizes on that, we as ShareID, we're a US company based in Portland, but we work globally. And what we've done is to aggregate data sources that represent about 2.5 billion consumers globally, based on a number of factors. Firstly, what they do for a living. So are you a member of the health service, or are you a police officer, a member of the armed forces, or a doctor, for example? Also, secondly, what your interests are. Have you just moved house? Are you a gamer, as for example? Or thirdly, what's your life stage? So are you a student, or are you retired, for example? Two very loyal audiences. And what we've done is taken that data set and allowed brands to verify those statuses via a simple interaction where the consumer will join our service, provide a couple of bits of information, and then we'll verify whether they fulfill that status and then provide that data to the brand in conjunction with an offer. And typically this has an amazing effect. What you find is that consumers love being verified based on what they do for a living. It creates an emotional connection with them or what their interests are. And what brands can do is they can provide a much better offer to consumers if they know they can gate the offer to that community. And by blocking out the people who aren't eligible, they can decrease the price, get a higher conversion rate. And what they also find is they get a high level of advocacy. So for example, 95% of teachers will advocate an offer they like to other teachers. And then you find that these consumers will come in happy to a service, and then that maximizes the lifetime value. So for example, one of our customers is Spotify, where we run the Spotify Student Premium verification. And Spotify have acquired millions of customers by offering a differentiated proposition to students utilizing our service over the last few years. So here's just a few kind of brands that we work with. Very kind of strong within the telco space, in digital streaming with Amazon and Spotify. Also work with airlines, and hundreds of retailers use our service for verifying all of these communities. And what I could do just quickly before I finish, just show you AT&T's landing page, because what often happens is that our customers will essentially offer these offers to a range of different communities depending on stages of the year. So if it's Veterans Day, or if it's back to school, or if there's particular events going on, then they'll have a rolling program of offers to these communities. And you can see here in the case of AT&T, they support all of our communities. And in the case of, say, for example, first responders, they'll make an offer to that community, and then we will then, oh, actually not on that one. We will then handle the verification here. So this is our verification form. I won't go into the detail of how it all works, but it's been a very effective way for these brands to increase the conversion rates and the personalization of their services, and also gain valuable zero-party data into their customer data platform. So, in the interest of time, I won't go into more detail, but thanks very much for the opportunity for me to share that and talk a bit about what we do to help brands to increase their, improve their customer experience with their consumers.
I think I liked what you said there, James. So people are providing information, they're proactively providing their information as well as their permission, should I say. And that's really important, because there's so many instances, and we're going to be talking about this a lot now, of businesses just sending massive campaigns out there. And this is where so many of us who have worked with SMS text messaging over the years, we hear of the words bulk messaging. And I personally hate that phrase, bulk messaging, because that implies zero personalization, just firing a million messages out there, hoping something sticks, and ultimately leading to no conversion, no real benefits for the organization actually paying for that. So it's about personalization. So why not ask the consumer? Stuart, I'd like to bring you in. You've got a little presentation as well.
I do, just a couple of slides, really. Just
Thanks.
to explain to anyone who doesn't know what Cinch is and what Cinch does. So, Cinch, we help you engage your customers like never before. Why do we do that? Oftentimes, customers can feel out of reach. We want to help you reach the right people at the right time with a tailored message that really speaks to the customer and tells them what they want to do. A major focus of what we do, I mentioned email, I mentioned voice, but the area of the business that I work in is mobile messaging. And what could be more personal than the mobile device that sits in everyone's pocket? Reaching consumers can be very difficult. And Cinch is basically here to simplify that process and help transform how you communicate. And in the season of goodwill and the holiday season that we're moving into, I thought I'd bring you all a gift. We have a very comprehensive channel guide, which you can access from our website. It gives you information around all of these channels that I've shown the logos for on screen, whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram, Telegram, Line, WeChat, KakaoTalk, Apple Messages for Business. Understand the nuances behind all of those channels, how they can all be used. And the easiest way to find that guide is probably just to Google Cinch channel guide, but I've also provided the link there for you.
Fantastic.
So just a very sort of quick introduction to what we do and what we're for.
No, that's lovely. And so let's get straight into it now. Thank you, Stuart. Kim, let's bring you straight into the conversation here. So lots of what James has been talking about, lots of what Stuart and others will be talking about, rely on the fact that there is a reliable internet connection, that people have smartphones, etc., etc. But the simple fact is that for several billion people around the world, that isn't the reality. So your market, the Gambia, what level, should I say, of of development does actually having, for example, a reliable internet service bring to businesses such as yours? If you could just click your fingers and rely on a reliable internet service in the Gambia today, because I think internet penetration is less than a third of people, I think, have access to reliable internet in Gambia today. What would that do for your business and the business of organizations engaging with their customers? How important is that technology development?
I think that's a really interesting question, James. I think to have an inclusive society with very little internet and such a huge poverty divide, the problem is that a lot of people still have a simple telephone. Now, governments and banks and larger businesses are now developing their own software, so they're no longer running their businesses on paper. In order for that to then operate, they need their internet connection, and they need their clients to have an internet connection. What we try and do as a CPAS is address both. So if you want to communicate via an internet connection of some sort, then we can do that for you. But we can also send the simple SMS, which will reach every single phone. We have situations, and this is not about marketing, but in a way it is. We have situations where, for instance, immigration will spend a fortune on border control devices that are all internet based. Somebody has very smartly marketed that to them. But it won't work, because unless it's connected to our dear old SMS, that connection won't allow for the information to flow 24/7. So we've sat here for a few years waiting for software to catch up with us. We have a broadcasting platform which our customers can manually send their messages via cloud, so they don't need internet so much for that. But in order to sell more SMS, our customers have to have the software.
Yeah, it's a vicious, it's a vicious circle there. Yeah.
So it's a real vicious circle. As far as marketing goes here, you put up a billboard. And I would love to be able to be doing and thinking about some of the things that all of you are doing and thinking about, but it would be completely impossible for me in this region.
Okay, so this is what we as an industry have got to think about today. And Kim is just where Kim is in the Gambia is just the tip of the iceberg. It absolutely is. And we've got to really get to the point where the solutions we as an industry offer, so coming from the likes of Stuart's company, Cinch, and Guillaume's company, Enabled, and others out there, are actually relevant for small organizations as well, and how we go about doing that. That's not to say, though, Kim, that SMS isn't versatile, because you look at the original mobile payments companies out there in Africa, such as M-Pesa in Kenya, and they were built on the back of SMS at the end of the day for making those payments, and they still are. So SMS is a fantastic channel for payments, and that changes people's lives. Yeah.
It's a channel for your one-time password. It's a channel to get an urgent message to somebody. Yeah. Here, it is the most important channel for the banks, because people don't have a bank statement. They don't go to their bank.
They may not even have a bank account, Kim.
Well, then, yes, that's a whole thing. Only 30% of the population are banked.
Yeah, okay, so thank you. So now let me go. Yeah, so I'm going to go from one extreme to the other. Munir, Dubai, the UAE. So talk about a country that has changed. You see all these pictures on the internet of literally what looked like just one big road with a few buildings on the side of it, and now where you are an Emirati, you are from there, and how things have changed and moved on. Can you just talk about the business climate in the UAE? Because we've been talking about the channels and how you target and everything. What about if you are an individual with an idea for a business, how you actually go about creating that company? And that has a lot to do with how governments relate to business. If you can talk about what's going on in the UAE and the help that businesses get there, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yes, James. Thank you. Just a small clarification. So I'm not an Emirati. I'm an expat for the past 27 years.
Oh, well, sorry, apologies. Where are you from originally?
Well, actually, I'm half. So I'm half Palestinian and half Russian. So
wow.
I've been here since I'm 6 years old, right?
Okay.
And again, this is actually a very great example, or an example of a success story when you have the right business environment. And this just complements your question. So I've seen Dubai grow from desert to the futuristic city that it is now. I mean, I'm sure most of you have seen a picture circulating the social media where there is the same highway. It's called the Sheikh Zayed highway.
That's the one I was thinking of, Sheikh Zayed. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there was one high-rise tower. That's the Dubai World Trade Center. It still exists and it's still there. But now, fast forward 15, 20 years, there are like a million other skyscrapers next to it, all glass, and you have swimming pools, and the highway is now like 6 lanes in each direction, and you have the tallest tower in the world, and so on. And the business atmosphere here is just fantastic. So I'm an example of that. I'm someone who basically, we can say, graduated from the system, because I founded my company in 2008 when I was a university student. Being an expat, I started my company as a home business initially. I mean, it wasn't licensed or anything. And then we basically applied for a business license, which literally took like 3 days to register. And I'm the 100% owner of this business. So I have a bank account, I have access to the best banking system, I have access to the best talent pool. I can hire any individual from anywhere on the planet and sponsor him as a company without any complication. So moreover, the country is literally open. It's meant for business. Dubai is meant for business. The way Dubai is structured, or the United Arab Emirates, I mean, just, maybe some people don't know, but Abu Dhabi is the capital, but Dubai is the main hub. Dubai is the second biggest city, and it's the main hub where all the tourism and the business happens. And the idea of Dubai is to attract as many people as possible from all walks of life to work, to live, to make money, to enjoy life, and to spend money. And this is very smart, because this is an ecosystem where people don't just think about, going as an expat and living for a few years and then leaving the country, but they actually want to stay. They want to have family. They want to invest into the economy. And this is an ecosystem, a life cycle, which, just booms. And this is why you hear about Dubai, all over the news and the press these days. It's really,
but the thing with many is, you've got Dubai is a long-term plan. It's got a long-term, multi-decade forward-thinking plan.
Absolutely.
That's the key thing. So
it's the key thing is the vision. So the leaders here, they have the so-called initiative like Vision 2030, Vision 2050, the UAE Moon mission. So just a few days ago, I think they launched a moon rover. So there is I think they launched it from United States, obviously, but there is a satellite which will drop, a moon rover, and they will study the moon surface. So this is something that they're already aiming. I think United Arab Emirates is one of the first countries to achieve, something in the space field. So this is exactly what's happening. And then there's another great initiative. Since we are here all from, let's say, the digital ecosystem, Dubai has gone all digital, all paperless. All the government departments are online. You can literally finalize all your transactions, from issuing a company license to, registering a marriage certificate, so on and so forth, from the comfort of your home. You don't need to remember username and password. You know, by having the identity card, you have the so-called UE Pass system. This is a single sign-on solution to log into everywhere, even private websites. So if you run a business, you run a website, and you don't want to have the classic, you know, username and password, you can connect it to the SDK kit or the API kit of the UE Pass, and that's it. So it's an ecosystem. So when we talk about scaling and expansion and having the right ecosystem, you need to have the foundation, and these are the bricks that create this foundation. It has to be done from all the sides, of course, starting from government.
So the role of governments and regulators cannot be underestimated in getting behind the business community and fostering a fantastic environment. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the government plays a key role because, you know, in many countries, people, I mean, there are two types of countries, right, where people try to circumvent and find a way to succeed, but there are countries where everything is there on the plate, you just have to execute. And United Arab Emirates is an example of the latter.
Okay, it's exceptional, I must say. It would be nice if all parts of the world, we've got participants here from all over the world. I'm sitting here in the UK thinking, I wish the UK was like that. It's definitely not. But there we go. So Narayan, could I just move to you? You're in India, got this population of 1.4 billion people. You've got so many millions of businesses ranging from large to small. Where would you start if you are creating a business from scratch, which you have with your business Visa? How would you start getting your brand out there and growing that in a market which is so vast like India? How do you differentiate yourself? Sure.
You know, thanks to 4G, we are seeing a massive growth in mobile internet, as in a lot of people who have got access to internet for the first time in their life is through 4G cell phone connections, right? Out of 1.4 billion people, almost 1.2 billion people have got cell phones in their hand. And out of that 1.2 billion, 800 million would be 4G phones. So you have 800 internet connected users, right? 800 million internet connected users. And they're leaving breadcrumbs everywhere. As in, you know, there are a lot of government schemes that government has digitized. So any subsidy the government rolls out, especially during COVID, was straight transferred in your bank account. You know, so earlier, maybe a decade ago, you had to go to the government office, show your paperwork. They give you some cash. There was a whole lot of corruption there. So it's all digital. Now, if as a company, what we've done, we've sensed this opportunity that there are a lot of D2C companies. D2C is direct to consumers, right? They're all app first. Now, consumers are leaving breadcrumbs of data everywhere, right? From OTT to their cell phones, to their websites, to their bill payments, to their mobile recharges, everything. So deterministic data is what we felt that brands will pay us for. You know, like if I'm a brand, yes, 1.4 billion people, I don't have billions dollars of marketing budget. So how do I cherry pick audiences? How do I get the relevant audiences, right? And that's where our strategy of data-driven targeting solutions really help. So I just present one slide to exactly tell you the granular data that we've got, right? And so out of the 1.4 billion people in this country, we've got access to about 550 million user profiles. That's like almost 42% of Indians' digital data is with us, right? If you look from 800 million, that is more than 50%, right? Now, we've made the data in these buckets. So if a brand is in the grocery space and wants to reach out to folks who are buying groceries, either online or offline, I can then give them straight access to 65 million users. Somebody wants to reach out to travel shoppers, like today, like December and Jan is a great travel season. Everybody wants to travel in the last weekend, right? Especially in the last 10 days. They want to run offers starting October, starting November. I give them access to 138 million travelers with subcuts of air, bus, train, etc.
But Narayan, how accessible is it for me? Let's say I'm starting off with a startup in India and I want to access your platform, your services. How easy do you make it for me, a startup? Is it something I could do?
Absolutely. So one of the target audiences or one of the potential pipeline of customers is startups, D2C companies, or anybody starting a business. We've converted this into a platform which we call it the Audience Pro profile, as an audience profile platform, Audience Pro. It's a SaaS model. Consumers, any brand who wants to launch can take my software, cherry pick the segments that he wants. It's like just drag and drop, right? And from there, it's a multi-channel activation. So it's Facebook, Insta, Google, all the OTT platforms in the country. I'm the only company in the country which has got access to more than 10 OTT platforms. So you want to advertise on OTT platforms? Bang on. I've got the inventory with me directly, direct pipes. You want to do on YouTube? It's there. At this point of time, we did get a lot of requests that integrate SMS and WhatsApp as well. So I'm in the process of integrating Gupshup as my carrier. And they will be my carrier for SMS and WhatsApp communication. So, for example, I'm launching a travel package. I pick up 10 million users out of 138. I just log on to VServe's platform, pick up 10 million users, pick up the channel on which I want to communicate, upload my creative, and click on send. In few seconds, the ad will be on their handset. You know, the product is on their handset.
This is key. So it's easy. You don't have to be a technical genius or anything like that. And it's rapid to integrate. Okay.
Not at all. It is as simple as just logging on to the tool, identifying your target group, going in my 600 plus list of attributes, cherry pick. It's just like a drag and drop in Excel, how you do, like a pivot table, right? You drag and drop, you get your potential reach there and there, right? That bases your requirement, what's the reach you're getting. You select your platform. It will also intersect your users who are active on that platform and tell you that, okay, you've selected 10 million and you've selected, say, YouTube as a channel. And out of the 10 million, 8 million are active on YouTube. Communicate to 8 million, upload your creative. There are specifications of creative as well. I have a team which gives support for creatives as well. If a brand says that, okay, I don't know how to make creatives or I'm not that well versed with, you know, I just know basic Canva. So we say, okay, fair enough. Send us your brand guidelines. We'll do the creative part for you. We do the creative part, give it back to the company. They upload the creative, click on activate, and within a few minutes, the campaign is live. So from decisioning to campaign activation, all we need is 60 minutes.
Lovely. Okay, so that's good. It makes it clear. So there are solutions out there which allow access to multiple channels for businesses of any size who don't have to be technical experts, and it doesn't cost a fortune. This is important. Okay, thank you, Narayan. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Guillaume, let's come to you. We've established there's so many different communication channels out there, everything like that. But what about the world of trust and security? Because we are all watching this, or us speakers, we are all consumers of goods and services. And for sure, the people who provide us with these services want to know that we are definitely who we say we are. That's a fact. So that's, I suppose, know your customer, the KYC side of things. But also there's the other element, the know your sender. We want to have faith, and this is increasingly becoming a problem all around the world, with increasing ad fraud, messaging fraud, voice fraud, etc., in actually the whole verification side of things. Can you just talk about that, Guillaume, about the whole verification side, and how can, again, it's a pet topic of mine, as so many of you know me, and you know what I talk about, but how can a smaller organization as well protect themselves and be really certain that their customers are who they say they are, and us as consumers protect ourselves as well? So the verification piece is important.
Yeah, definitely, James. Yeah, and with the panel we have today, I think this is a topic that we could talk about for the next few hours. But let's try to summarize that and to go right to the point. I think first and foremost, when we're talking about the customers' experience and brand awareness, there is a lot of things about regulation that enter into play, right? In different markets, you have a lot of new compliance and regulation enter into force, like GDPR, CCPA, and many others. I know the Indian market is also looking at the Data Privacy Act. You have so many countries looking at that right now with GDPR in mind, right? So what are you doing first with the data, right? It's all about the right to forget, the data retention. How do you work on that? That's how do you keep that secure, right? It's as a company, as a SME or a large corporation, how do I engage with my customers safely, keeping in mind that I have all these regulations to take into account, right? That's also first and foremost a very difficult and critical point. So when it comes to engage with these users, how can I verify them and ensure that I'm talking to the right person? I have seen earlier that people that's mentioning that they have customers engaging by themselves to agree to receive messages and so on. That's amazing. Person
is on frozen. Yeah.
Right. What about the opt-in or opt-out? So from that perspective, is all these things that you need to look at and to keep into consideration, because you want to ensure first and foremost you engage with the right person, with the right group, but they are still who they were when they opt in, right? And that's very critical. So from a security perspective also, you open yourself to a lot of trouble, right? If you want to engage with someone that is not the right person. Different also, how are you going to send your messages? Are you going to send...
You're in absolutely the market for that in the US, where 100%.
Tell me about it. So I have my phone for the, I mean, not that phone, but the phone number for the last 10 years, right? It's a New York numbers where I land first here in the US. I'm now in California. I receive every day SMS spam, robot calls, and so on every day. And some of them still with the old name of the person who get it before me. So Jerry, if you hear me, I still receive SMS for poker tournament every day. So this is about checking, right, who is the right owner, right? And that's really the problem, because it means the brand are spending money on things that do not worth anything.
And that's exactly, it's not just spam. It's not just spam. You've got legitimate brands. And Narian, we've talked about this. We've talked about this within our working groups in MEF as well, the Fraud and Revenue Assurance Working Group, that there's so many issues with WhatsApp at the moment in India. But legitimate use of the business messaging solutions, just brands are going overboard and just hitting people with too many communications. Exactly. They're bombarding them. There was the word before the B word, bombarding. Yeah.
So, and too much communication kills the communication at one point. So we need really to be more really thoughtful about how we use that and how we manage these communication. And this is why I was, from a data privacy perspective, but also from a security perspective, to really make sure that the message still resonates. There is a few steps to take before really before sending massive amounts of messages, and these steps really can help brands to create a better awareness and to be better focused also from that perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Channel there that you need to standardize that part.
Thanks, Stuart. How do we do that realistically, though? Because I appreciate you've got large companies such as yourselves. You've got lots of people who know the regulation inside out, what can and can't be done in various countries around the world. Again, I use my analogy. I'm starting up a business. I'm wanting to go international, have customers in multiple countries. You've got, Guillaume touched on the point, GDPR, personal information regulations around the world, which are increasing. Regulators are really coming into this area in force now. How can companies such as Cinch out there make life easier for me when it comes to simply wanting to contact my customers, to cut across all through this regulation? What do you do? What is it that providers such as Cinch do to make things easier?
You know, we put a lot of effort into our data privacy compliance. There's a huge team within the company that ensure that any new product or service we bring to market will look after our customers' data. And when I talk about our customers' data, it's typically their customers' data. So it's our customers' data. A lot of the use cases that we see are primarily B2C. And as such, it's end users' data that we're looking after. We want to look after Jerry and Guillaume both equally, despite them both living on the same number. I think just picking up a couple of the points that the team has spoken about so far, really. Guillaume talked about, not bombarding customers with too many messages and keeping it relevant. I think as we move into a world of conversational messaging, there's no need to continually send messages day after day, week after week. You can get to the point where customers can reach out to you, start that conversation. You can engage with a chatbot. You can keep that conversation going and personal when the recipient wants to do that, rather than continually prodding them and saying, do you want to talk to me now? Do you want to talk to me now? Do you want to talk to me now? You're there, ready, and waiting for them whenever they want to come. Having said that, of course, the other end of the spectrum is where Kim is in Gambia, still relying on SMS. SMS is a key part of the business, and a challenge that Cinch and a lot of our competitors have is how do we transform the current world, which is overly reliant on SMS, and move customers down that journey. And that's something we're putting a lot of work into. So we have internal teams that will work with large and small enterprises, bring them along that journey, work with them to develop campaigns, targeted campaigns, or personalized campaigns, and deliver that over SMS if that's the only option, or begin to introduce some of these richer channels as well. And obviously user verification and security, ensuring that a user on the end knows that it really is a brand they're speaking to is all about preventing fraud. And we do an awful lot of work behind the scenes. It's unsung work, capturing, blocking, stopping illegitimate traffic. We're obviously very happy to be signed up to the MEF Sender ID registry scheme. And we ensure that participants of that scheme's traffic is protected. But I'm also very interested in, again, some of the newer channels that allow us to protect and ensure the sender agents are verified, so that consumers really know that they're speaking to who they think they're speaking to.
That's key. Now, James, you've had a ton of experience across the whole of mobile. The one thing we actually haven't talked about that much is actually the role of mobile operators in all of this, because you go to practically any country in the world, you walk out onto the streets, every citizen, probably from the age of 6 to 96 and beyond probably, will at least know the name of at least the name of one of the mobile operators in the country. The same cannot be said of any of your companies. It doesn't matter how big you are in the country, no one will have heard of you whatsoever, apart from probably in your locality, or if you're employing people, a lot of people locally in your hometown. What role can or do today, or could mobile operators, if they really partnered with companies on this panel correctly, have in this world of customer engagement?
That's a very good question. I think in my conversations with mobile operators, what you find is that they have a bit of a, I guess, somewhat kind of checkered history in terms of their relationship, their data, how they manage the data of some of their customer base, because essentially they've had customers kind of churning off and on their networks continually for a long period of time, and so quite often, an individual may have had a relationship with one particular operator 4 or 5 times over their kind of lifespan. So they do actually have this kind of huge wealth of information, but I think it scares them sometimes of how they should use it. Some operators have been very proactive in terms of taking a kind of proactive approach to, say, identity, and kind of trying to offer identity services and having a range of APIs which cover various aspects of a consumer, such as their whether they have ownership of a handset, or their address details or account details, that type of thing. And I think that they should do more of that, in my opinion, because they are trusted. One thing mobile operators or telcos generally have is they are trusted. They may not be always universally liked in all instances, but they are hugely trusted organizations. And I think they could develop much more on the basis of being a trusted organization, particularly with respect to consumer data, because they do try so hard to do a good job with that, and they do a great job with that. So so I think, you know, in terms of our relationship with operators, we only do a small thing to kind of augment or enhance the information that they have. So we don't get involved in kind of knowing who the person is. What we try to do is augment that data with what they more data about what they do or what their interests are, which I think does kind of help the mobile operators to build a much more rich and personalized experience. But we don't seek to do more than that at the moment, if you like.
No. No, thank you. So it's a good point. Mobile operators exist to really serve us, to ensure that when we roam, we've got access to services. Their prime raison d'etre, reason of being, is not to service enterprises necessarily, but that's an area, certainly I'm hearing from MEF members and others beyond, that with their strong brand names behind the right partnerships they could move into. And why don't mobile operators ask us, subscribers, what types of, for example, adverts we'd like to receive? Ask us to opt in to all the various categories. There's so much potential there. Now, Munir, coming to you. We've been talking about messaging. We've talked about SMS, various chat apps, WhatsApp, Telegram, social media platforms have been mentioned. But the fact is today that in terms of the number of transactions globally and how businesses interact with us consumers, email is still number one, even though the conversion rate may not be as high, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what? With an email, you have a domain associated with that. So can you just explain the importance of getting your domain name right and what options there are out there for small startups that don't have millions of dollars in cash behind them, wanting to get their brand right from day one?
Yeah, sure, James. Well, you know, having a domain name or registering one is one of the cheapest and most cost-effective options to establishing your, you know, digital address. So the domain name is literally your digital real estate. It will define your brand name online and search engines, on, you know, databases, on directories, on social media, everywhere. So, you know, there is a saying in our business, in our industry, it all starts with a great name. So you need to be sure whether you're a startup, you know, you're a university student, you're an SME, you're a large enterprise, you need to have the right domain name. So what does it mean to have the right domain name? A right domain name basically, you know, means a few things. It has to be ideally speaking, right? Short, easy to remember, and defining your brand name, if it's a unique trademark, and perhaps your geolocation. So let's say if you're only serving, you know, Dubai, for instance, or London, let's say if you only deal with properties in London, you would get something like, you know, jamesproperties.uk.co.uk or jamespropertylondon.com, something like that. So of course, if jamesproperty.com is available, that would be the best option. So
that was going to be the next point I'm coming to, because all these, they're all surely taken. The good ones are surely taken on a supremely expensive.
Exactly. All the great names are taken. So the recent very signed reports for quarter 3 of 2022, and for those of you who don't know, so very signed is the registry for .com and .net. So basically the largest, you know, the two largest domain names.
Stuart and I know it well. We worked there before many years ago.
All right. So yeah, good to know. So there are more than, like, I don't know, almost 400 million domain names out there, close to 400 million domain names. And if you go out there right now and try to find any combination of a .com name, most probably it's taken, or the other option is that it will be listed for sale on the so-called aftermarket at a premium price. So it might be a couple of $1,000. It can be, you know, $1 million or even a few $1 million. So companies nowadays, they run after great names because they want to have an easy to remember address. It's like you having a prime location in London, you know, somewhere in Knightsbridge or Mayfair Square. This is very similar, you know, you need an address. I mean, we are now having this conversation on the Zoom platform. Zoom was always Zoom.us. Even if you look at the invite link, which was sent out, to the panelists here today and to the attendees, it's Zoom.us. Just a few years ago, Zoom acquired Zoom.com from someone who didn't even know about the existence of Zoom and probably registered the domain name before the existence of Zoom. And he sold it to Zoom, I think, for $2 or $3 million. So this is a great example where a company starts with, an alternative name or a name for, they had a small budget, so they found a name, or perhaps they didn't, have a long-term plan. They didn't know that they will be, so successful, especially, so many startups failed. That's the secret. So Zoom was a startup, right, before going public. So once they developed their business and they became famous, and during the pandemic, this was like accelerated like X100. They went for their .com. So .com is the king, it's the ultimate. However, there are also plenty of intelligent alternatives to .com. So nowadays there are over 700 extensions like .london, .property, .dubai, .abu dhabi, .kids, .llc. I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, I'm advising for a new domain name zone. It's called .it.com, targeting IT professionals. So there are just so many options out there. So you shouldn't limit yourself, but having a domain name and using it across your social media, across your business cards.
But it doesn't have to be expensive. This is the key thing. You can get a decent one at a reasonable price.
You can always start very reasonable. Again, as long as you don't book a domain name that's like 20 characters long or 15 characters. So anything then more than 3 words, or ideally should be 2 words describing your brand name, the location or brand name, the service you offer, like, I don't know, Munir Hosting or James Telecom, it gives the idea. So James is the brand or the name, and Telecom, you're in telecom business. So this is ideal.
Keep it simple.
And of course,
keep it simple.
Keep it simple. But also, one should not forget about the second important step, and that's securing your online presence. So once you have a domain name, you need to be sure that you are the legal owner of this domain name. A very common mistake that happens, and I see it in my business, is that I'm a startup today. I'm super busy. I'm working from co-working spaces. I met this, gentleman who is a freelance web designer. He's like, I'm going to do the website for you. I will do the business cards for you. And he goes and registers the domain name under his or her name. And then 5 years down the line, once you are successful, you are preparing your IPO, he's like, that domain name is mine.
He holds it hostage.
He holds it hostage.
And mobile numbers,
Same with numbers. The operators lock in and all that stuff with the contracts. It's very similar. So it's your intellectual property. It's your IP.
So this is another point. So I'm going to come to Kim. We've got to finish off. It really pains me to say, I know I probably bit off too much more than could chew with so many great speakers, but it's such a great topic. We could go for hours, but keep it simple. Kim, what would your recommendations be? You've started a business off in admittedly a challenging part of the world for starting a business off. What would you recommend to anybody out there wanting to do that? Basic, very quickly, please. What would you recommend?
Well, I think make sure you've got enough money to survive for a certain length of time. I think probably put a limit on how far you're going to go, which is impossible because once you've gone almost too far, you've just got to keep going. Get up every morning, work 7 days a week, just keep connecting with people.
That's it.
I think, and I really loved, I can't remember which gentleman it was, too much communication kills communication. But as a startup, you've got to keep communicating, but I think very much on a personal level. Yes. And I would really love to see Alchemy entering an arena where we can use some of these amazing services that you've all got out there. And I look at just now the domain name. Well, I hope I won't get taken to mile 2, but our Gambian government's domain name was originally bought by a Swiss company that won't let them have it back.
Okay, there we go. It just shows you need to.
On that
note, yeah. There we go.
Don't let somebody else register it for you. And
Narayan, very, very quick closing comment from you.
All I would say that be very clear what you want to communicate to your consumers, when do you want to communicate, and what is the expectation you have from your communication, right? Because brands, there have been times that I've received 2 to 3 messages from the same brand in one single day. And I'm like, how many products am I expected to buy? You know?
Same here, same here. And it puts you off. It absolutely turns you off, even though you know you love their products and they're a great brand. And now I was going to say the Queen, but unfortunately, the King may actually be using them. But it puts you off. It puts you off. Guillaume, your final comment, please.
My final comment will be don't underestimate data privacy and policy, as well as the security for your campaign. Brand awareness and customer experience goes through that these days.
But it can be easy. Please don't think it's difficult. So I won't bother trying that or doing that, because you work with the right provider and they can take care of those headaches.
That's exactly why you have companies like all this person here around the table today that helps to navigate through that. So talk to the right person. That's really key.
Thank you. Stuart.
Yeah, my advice for anyone would be to keep it simple. Use the right channel for the right communication, and don't forget and don't abuse the power of reaching right into someone's pocket and contacting them on their mobile device.
Yeah, too many transactions can really kill it and bombard it. And James, you started things off, and we started where we're going to finish where we started.
Well, I think that what's amazing now in terms of online is there's so many tools which allow businesses big and small to take control of their business and their customer relationships. And I think if you actually have the right IT, the right strategy and use the right tools, you can really kind of make yourself appear and be much bigger than you actually are as you're growing your business, because there's so much out there that you can harness and use. So I think if you're smart, you can actually take full control of your business by using the right tools, would be what I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, that's been it, folks. Believe it or not, these 60 minutes, the hour has rolled by so fast. This has been the last Mobile Ecosystem Forum live webinar of the year. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to thank my speakers from literally all around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. And thanks to everyone who's participated in MEF webinars, events, spoken throughout the year. We'll be starting very early next year. I'll be out in Malaysia running the first event on January 11th and 12th. I'll have the pleasure of meeting Narayan again, who's coming over from Mumbai to Kuala Lumpur for that. So Monia, thank you so much for joining us from Dubai, bringing a different flavor from the usual MEF norm, talking about your domain names and websites, super important. Guillaume out in California, and welcome to Enabled. Kim, as always, great seeing you, and thank you for your input and giving us a very, very nice Gambian African flavor. Stuart, pleasure having you. And James, pleasure meeting you as well and having Share ID's input. Thank you all very much, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.